Well, back, another episode of the Dirt Exchange podcast.
And it's great to be back and great to be able to share our thoughts.
Yeah, and this week's been a crazy week for us. We've had we had a 2-day auction that just wrapped up, so it's been busy, and there's some stuff going on at the end of the week that has taken up some of our time. So we wanted to get in here and at least record something. It might be a little bit shorter than our normal 40 minutes or so, but we wanted to get some stuff out there. I know our followers really like seeing our content. So
yeah, all of them. They really, from the feedback we're getting, really love to see it. And I think we have a good topic to talk about today.
Yeah. So, as you know, we live in a world where all you hear about is negatives. The media doesn't report any positives, or if they do, it's very rare.
Very seldom.
And that's whether you're talking about, a mass shooting or a football player or a basketball player or whatever it may be, you hear the negatives. And eventually, when you start hearing all these negatives, you begin to kind of lose hope or sanity, in our situations,
Well, it seems like it just rubs off.
It does.
It rubs off to other people, and people have this negative connotation. And
perception is reality.
It is.
Unfortunately.
It really is. I think you're right on this positive aspect of things.
And the one thing that you can always look at is people in the agricultural world are genuinely good, solid, have strong core values, and they're great people. I just wanted to share a quick story because of all the negativity you hear. You're not getting as many positives, and I had a really big positive in my life happen. My family and I went to South Dakota on vacation over the 4th of July. On the way back, we were pulling our camper, and then behind that, we had a trailer with our side-by-side on it. Leaf spring broke. We lost the rear axle on our camper.
That's terrible.
We were between Shadron and Alliance, Nebraska, and if anybody's ever been out there, I'm 6 hours away from home, and in between Shadron and Alliance is nothing, right? It's a stretch of Highway 385, and there's nothing out there.
Right.
So, trying to figure out what we're gonna do. I got 2 young kids, and of course my wife, and then a bunch of stuff behind us in the camper and whatnot. So we end up limping it to a feedlot, the Bullock feedlot, that's about halfway in between, and walked up to the door, knocked on the door, and this older gentleman named Gary answered and told him what the situation was. And he's like, well, if you need to, leave it here, come back and get it, fix it, whatever.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I got plenty of room. And they raised they custom feed 4,000 head of cattle.
Wow.
So yeah, they're not small by any means, and they're probably one of the very few in western Nebraska left that does custom feeding. And so I said, yeah, it's probably going to take a couple weeks by the time to get the parts and all that kind of stuff in and figure out what I need. Well, I was in kind of a scatterbrained mind, when we were parking it, because it just happened, and I didn't take measurements of the axles or look at the leaf springs or see what brakes I needed and that kind of stuff. So I told him it's probably going to be a couple weeks. Well, I tried searching for parts, couldn't find exactly what I needed, and I didn't want to overstay my welcome, so we headed up there with a flatbed trailer, and the plan was that we were going to load it onto the trailer and haul it home. So kind of Jed Clampett style, but you got to do what you got to do. Anyway, this last weekend we showed up to get it, and I called them and told them that we were coming on Saturday. And keep in mind, they're haying, they're irrigating, they have cattle that they got to feed, that kind of stuff.
Irons in the fire, big time.
Yeah, they took about 3.5 hours out of their day to help my wife and I get this on the trailer. And we tried several different things, finally figured out what worked and got it on there. They wouldn't take a dime for it. There was nothing I could give them or help them with that they needed, and they're like, well, we're just very happy to help.
Yeah.
The cool thing is, we had a 6.5 hour drive home, so we got home kind of late. The next morning, probably about 8:15 or so, I get a call from a number that I don't know, didn't recognize, and it was Gary, the father, that called to make sure we made it home safely.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
3 weeks ago, I didn't know the guy.
Yeah.
And they treated me like a friend and a family when I was there. Super awesome people. So I wanted to share that. If anybody's ever in a situation where you can help out, you don't know what kind of difference you're going to make in that person's life at that time. You know, because I would still probably be there trying to load it. You know, God bless my wife. She's amazing. You know, she was a lot of help, but her and I could not have got it ourselves.
Right.
You know,
And that's a great story, and you know, I think the farming community across the nation.
yeah,
I want to make a shout out to all of them and thank them from the bottom of our hearts. Nebraska strong here.
yeah,
We went through the whole state of Nebraska.
yeah.
And then with flooding in the spring.
Well,
it was devastation.
Yeah,
Devastating.
and that was in what, March or so?
That was in March, yes.
And it was it about probably less than a month ago that you and your wife and family were able to move back into your house?
Moved back into our house. We had to gut the whole basement, studs and everything, and completely a loss. But you know, we're just grateful we have our lives. But
yeah,
you know,
because you ended up having to be rescued by an airboat, right?
We had to be rescued by airboat.
Yeah, I mean, what was going through your head at that point? Because I mean, I've never been in that situation.
Well,
I mean, it's scary.
I'll tell you what was going through my head mostly is are we going to get out of here without having to, you know, I mean, our lives.
Yeah.
Furthermore, we have a boy at the house that, you know, is on a transplant list.
Yeah.
And he needs medicine constantly. And he had enough for another day.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's what was going through my wife's and I head. You know, are we going to be able to get out of here
to get
we can get him the proper medication?
Yeah. And you know, that's part of being a parent is you always look at stuff and it's bigger than you.
Yeah.
You know, we all want the world for our kids, and we'll do anything that we can to make sure they get what they need. And luckily for you guys, there was some awesome first responders and general public that were bringing their airboats out and helping. You know, and unfortunately, you see that. We've seen that in Nebraska. That was publicized, but nationwide, it was the devastating floods, people without homes. I mean, it was just down and down. But they didn't show how a state came together and was resilient.
You're right. Not only did the state come together, but the farming community across state lines came together for us here. As far as all the livestock that was lost, I mean, all the hay coming in from different states, Texas, Florida, Illinois.
Well, and they were actually dropping hay out of National Guard helicopters to certain people. I mean, and unfortunately, there's some people that are going to be ruined by what had happened earlier in the year.
Right.
But as a whole, I feel like we've really bonded together as a state, and we have a plan moving forward where people are looking into it. And
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And one thing I was going to talk, you know, just say real quick before we get into a little more detail of what we're going to discuss is I think, you know, you had said the media is so negative. I think we as people need to weed out some of that salty negativism and focus on the good of the good.
Yeah.
Focus on that positive.
Do you remember, this was back in our car business days, we were sitting in one of our Saturday morning meetings, and we had a gentleman, I don't remember his name, but his gimmick was the speaker with the sneaker.
Yeah.
He wore a full suit, but red Chuck Taylor tennis shoes. And that's how I remember him. Now, obviously, his catchphrase and his image works because I remember it. But one of the things that he had talked about, and it's kind of where I got that perception is reality bit, is people can feed off your energy, people can feed off your emotion, and you know, you walk by somebody in the hall, or you walk by somebody in the grocery store, you're opening a door, or whatever it may be, and you know, you're like, "Hey sir, how's your day?" And they say, "Oh, it's pretty good," you know, or you'll get somebody who says, "Well, I ain't worth a damn," you know, whatever it may be. But one of the things that he had mentioned in there, and it stuck with me, and I'm sure you've noticed, you know, when somebody asks me, you know, "How you doing today?" I go, "I'm awesome." whether I am or I'm not, right?
Yeah.
But it's perception,
Yep.
and you want people to feed off your energy and the tone that you set. And that's something that can help bring some of the positivity to it, because you talk to a lot of farmers, and there's some of them that are kind of doom and gloom, because it's a rough season and it's the perception and the prices aren't where they were 5-6 years ago, et cetera. But how would that snowball if you as a farmer, I said, hey, how you doing today? So, I'm doing great. The corn looks good, and you focus on the things that you're thankful for and you're blessed with. I got a great family, I got food on the table, my truck's running, or whatever it may be, just got a new tractor, rather than the negatives. And,
Exactly.
And I think, one of the things that we wanted to talk about was the involvement of the youth in the agricultural world.
Yes.
And it's pretty hard to bring them into the fold when all they hear is negativity.
Exactly.
You don't hear a farmer sitting around talking shop at the coffee store about, what has farming given me in my life. It's given me a farmstead, ground, the ability to send 4 kids to college or whatever it may be. You don't hear that, right? And then again, the media doesn't portray that either.
No,
right?
they don't. They don't.
And
They just portray the negativity of what's happening in the present, and
yes, and so us as being in the agricultural world, if everybody can find a way to try to bring that young person into the fold and do it in a positive way and share the goods of it, it's only going to help, right?
Oh yeah.
Totally. and I think that another one of the other things that we need to do is incorporate technology into it, and I'm not talking about the GPS and those type of stuff, because that's there, they know about it.
Right.
I'm talking about social media and things like that. If you, I know you're probably not a big Instagrammer, but that's kind of the rave with all the young millennial type people is, I posted that on Instagram, or did you see this on Instagram? So I'm on Instagram. I don't do a lot with it, but I use it, and I use it to promote myself.
I have an Instagram account. I look at it maybe, here and there.
Yeah.
But not faithfully. But
what's crazy?
Growing.
Yeah, what's crazy is and the people who have adapted this have done really well. If you get on there and you just type in farms or farming, it pulls up a whole list of people that you can follow. So I did,
Groups you're talking about?
No, just individuals,
Okay.
profiles, whatever.
Okay.
And it could be J&K Farming or, Pat Smith Excavating or whatever it may be, And you start looking through their stuff, and you can tell that it's ran by a person of a younger generation, because they're posting drone videos of planting. They're taking glamour shots of their tractor at the sunset, when they're finishing up, stuff like that heightens the level of importance for that younger generation.
Isn't it cool you bring that up? Because I think, in turn, that really empowers our youth.
Yeah.
And if we can empower our youth and give them the confidence in knowing that, okay, they can be brought into this farming community and have a say-so, say in a chat room or whatever, and give guidance to a different generation.
Yeah. Well, and I think,
how perfect is that?
Yeah, and I think a lot of the younger generation, what's the biggest thing that they want? They want a voice.
They want a voice.
Right? Because there's more than one way to skin a cat. My dad always told me that. So it doesn't matter whether you do it this way or you do it this way, as long as you get to the end the same. Well, a lot of these guys, like my 7-year-old, he's plays Farming Simulator on his phone like it's going out of style. But because of that, he knows tractor models, and he'll go on YouTube and look out and find out more information on them. Or he'll like, it's like this field didn't yield as well with corn. I'm going to try beans, or I'm going to move to cotton, or whatever. So they're still learning even at that age. And as stuff progresses, find a kid under 20 where their phone's not right here in their hand. And so
crazy,
they have to embrace technology. And I think because the average, farm owner or ranch owner of this day and age is 45 to 65. You know, that, not to say they're not technologically advanced, because there's several of them that are.
There's a lot of them that are,
But they don't embrace it the same way the younger generation does. So if you can adapt some of those technologies that they use and some of the newer, you know, more cutting edge things, you can actually, you know, maybe, yeah, sure, I mean, you might spend a little bit more on technology, but you're bringing in a younger mind, and you might be more efficient because of that technology. You know, which in turns, if you're more efficient, you're going to make more money.
and you might be able to diversify into
Yes.
other areas that you've never thought of.
Yes, absolutely. Well,
Let that young person be a voice.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. And I think not everybody or every state or school has an FFA program. I'm a huge proponent
Oh, I am
proponent
too.
for FFA. They do a lot of great things. In fact, there was a kid at UNL, University of Nebraska Lincoln, you know, here in Nebraska, that with the help of the FFA has developed his own lure system, like fly fishing lures.
Yeah, I remember talking about that with you. I think it's pretty cool.
And he took a class initially when he was like 10 or 11 or something like that, made his first one out of cat hair, and has grown from then. Now he's got a full line in Cabela's.
Yeah.
You know, which is
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. And he talks, I was in the article I was reading, he talked about the importance that FFA taught him. Not only from a standpoint of, you know, the ag side, but the entrepreneurial side and things that they can focus on there, you know, and then once you know, that person, he's taking agribusiness, which is a good thing. Obviously you're focused in ag, but you're also focused on the other side of the business, the actual nuts and bolts per se.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one thing our farming operations, whether small or big, and you and I have discussed that, these are businesses.
Yeah.
But I think the nation or the world needs to really needs to portray it more as a business to attract these youth into the programs. So it looks, you know, they are businesses, okay?
Yeah.
Let's make it look like a true business.
Yeah.
Instead of old-fashioned.
Well,
Now, don't get me wrong, the old-fashioned works as far as wisdom goes.
Yes, absolutely. Well, but times are changing and stuff is different.
We need to evolve.
Yes, and one of the things is when you say getting you know, the youth involved in agriculture, most people think, well, yeah, you know, that's my son. He's going to come back and he's going to run the family farm when I'm gone, or when I decide to hang it up, which very well might be the case, because, you know, in the ag world or the farming or ranching, you don't have private backers that could get you set up with land or get you set up with, you know, equipment, that kind of thing. You almost have to inherit it or have an in somewhere to do that. So I think they also need to make, you know, financing options and land acquisitions for the youth a little bit easier. And there's several ways out there through grants and stuff like that based on, you know, an ag seminar speech and being an ambassador for that. So there are some things out there, but it needs to be focused on more.
I agree with you, and there are a lot of youth out there that would, you know, they don't voice it a lot, but they, from the feedback we hear, that they would love to get into farming, but they don't know how to acquire land.
Yeah. Well,
because of your point right there.
And if you can't, it's not the end of the world.
No.
There's still another side of the ag world, and that can be, you know, you working for a seed company or a custom spraying company or feedlots. Yeah. So you can still be involved in it and maybe work your way up through the ranks to where you might not be an owner or an operator, but you're the general manager of a Bullock's type feedlot that has 4,000, you know. And what was cool that I seen there that he was working right along. Gary is, again, an older gentleman, probably not too far away from retirement age, or maybe he's passed. But to see him working right alongside of his son is awesome. and they both accepted ownership of what they did. You could hear the pride in their voice. So that was a guy who has done a good job of bringing his kid into the fold over time, like we had talked about in our past podcasts, and handing it over to the next generation. And so I think that that's something that more people really need to put some focus on.
I think you're right. I mean, if there's more ownership empowerment, it's totally going to make the employees work harder.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're fighting for the whole company.
It is. And one of the other things is, and it kind of goes back to the media relations, is as a community or the population, we need to put a greater investment into ag. Excuse me. But you look at how big the farmers markets have grown in recent years. Mm-hmm. That's a good step forward. And rather than going to a Walmart and buying your produce,
right?
Why not take 15-20 minutes out of your time, go down to the local farmers market, because they are farmers too, right? They plant, they pick, they grow, that kind of stuff, and put that investment into it, because that's the type of person that's going to come back and spend money at your business or the company you work for.
Exactly. I was just going to say, go to the farmer's market, but in addition to the farmer's market, you have trailers set up, nice trailers set up with produce. You say farmer's market, but we have, like I said, the trailers here in town that, have the sweet corn, have the watermelon, have the pumpkins, have this and that. And it's good. It's really good stuff. It's better than you can buy in some stores.
Yeah, well, and it's that type of person. If you're supporting them, you're helping buy a pair of football cleats for their son to play football.
Exactly.
Or their daughter to have dance lessons, or the bike they've been wanting for their birthday, that type of thing. So it's truly an investment, and you invest in the people who invest in you.
Exactly.
So
good point. Good point.
Well,
but I think we've chatted on long enough today.
Yeah.
But hopefully the people will respond to what we had to say today.
Yeah.
And totally empower our youth, but rely on the old wisdom out there.
Yes, and I encourage anyone who's listening to this, if you have an idea or a topic involving the youth that you want to bring to the table, comment on our video or send us an email and let's talk about it.
We would love to.
Because that's how things get started, is one person tells one person, that person tells another one, and then so on and so forth. So
we want this to, anytime, any one of our podcasts, anytime there's an idea or what have you, we want this to be an open forum.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
well, until next week.
It's been great, Chris.
All right.
Legit.
We'll see you later.
All right, take care, man.